So yeah, thank you for being here. It is Bread Goodness Day. This was started about 8 years in Michigan, and 3 years ago I was approached by some community members, and they educated me about this day. They had done an event in Evansville, and then Sarah and Andrea are the two organizers. Andrea lives in Stoughton, and Sarah lives in Evansville, and they said, "Hey, how would you like to do this in Stoughton?" I'm like, "Sure, what do you want me to do?" So we started with a proclamation. In the first year, we met some students as they came into the high school, and they looked at me when they came in and they thought they were all in trouble, but they weren't. So that was kind of the first thing. Is we did greetings, we handed out bookmarks and things to make people feel good that day. And it's really about spreading kindness. Last year, landed on the coffee with the mayor as well. And Sarah and Andrea got together with the senior center, and they booked a McCloskey, so they'll be performing again today at 1 o'clock. So if you're looking for something to do, great entertainment, good guys, be a lot of fun. So that's how the senior center is celebrating. And then there's a pep rally that I'm going to be invited to at River Bluff today at 2:15. So I'm looking forward to being in a gym full of middle schoolers. We'll see how that goes. But it should be a lot of fun. So speaking of goodness, there she is. Our County Executive Melissa Agard is here today as a special guest. And Melissa's done pretty much everything. I'll probably miss something. I know you're on the assembly, the county board. At one point you were our state senator, and now county executive, and whatever else I missed, you can fill us in along the way. But we're blessed to have leadership like Melissa in this position, because one thing about Melissa, when she runs for office, she's all in, and she does it for the right reasons. And not all elected officials do that, in my opinion. But Melissa has already done that, and that's one of the things I most appreciate about her. And it shows in the work that she does. Excellent work ethic, smart, collaborator, communicator, brings people together to solve problems. We have a lot of problems in the world. We're going to focus on the ones we can control today. But Melissa is well-rounded on some of the other issues because of her experience here in the state of Wisconsin. So thank you for being here, and we'll give you the floor. And if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, and County Executive Agard will be more than happy to answer them for you.
Good morning, Stoughton.
Good morning.
When I was redistricted out of Stoughton as a state senator, because Wisconsin has more redistricting than anyone else, I told Tim he wasn't getting done with me quite yet. So I decided I guess I needed to run for county executive so that I could come back and be part of the community. I have two different things that I prepared to talk to you about today. I think we have time for one, so I'd like to get a temperature of the room. One of them, I can talk a little bit about what county government does. It's been really clear to me over the last more than a year that I've been bumping around earning this job that not everyone knows what county government does, and that's not a bad thing, right? Like, I have the ability to tell that story. So I can talk a little bit about what county government does and what my role as county executive is, or I can talk about what it's been like since November starting the job. So a little bit about 4 months into the job and what that has been like. Is there an opinion in the room? I want to make sure that I honor democracy, right?
Do you have your mic on?
It says it's on.
Oh, okay. So it must
My
be,
kids tell me that I have a loud voice, but
It
everyone
must
else
be,
tells me I have a
yes.
soft voice. Is this one better?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So we need to recharge number 3.
yes.
All right, so I was saying I have 2 presentations, 2 paths that I can go down. One is talking a little bit about what county government does. Not everyone knows county government. It's a big conversation. And the other one is talking about what it's been like since November, since I stepped into the job. So I thought I would open it up to the floor. Is there curiosity down one of those paths?
What it's been like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What it's been like?
Yeah.
All right, so there is this tradition where after you have 100 days into a job as a new leader, you kind of reflect back on what it's been like. And I think that started back with Franklin Roosevelt and his presidency. He used that 100 days as a benchmark for matching up to his priorities, what it is that he promised on the campaign trail, what it was he was learning, and how it is that he had moved the ball. So we use that as an opportunity within the office, and we're a little bit over 100 days, by a couple of weeks, but not by a lot. So I'm going to start by saying, holy cow, it feels pretty unprecedented, and I think that you guys will agree with me as we continue on with our conversations. And y'all remember, right, I'm an introvert, so if you have questions or things that you want to add to the conversation, please do that. I do better when it's a back and forth. But in the very first couple of months of being the county executive, one of the things that I think we have all feared actually happened, and that was on December 16th, about 3 weeks into me taking office. There was a mass shooting at a school here in Dane County at Abundant Life, and that tragedy took the lives of a teacher and students, and there were students that were very, very harmed. There is still one young person who is in the hospital at the Children's Hospital UW-Madison, and I'm grateful for what it is that our community did to ensure that it wasn't a bigger tragedy. And ultimately, whether it was the Dane County employee who works at the 911 center who took that very first call, or the rapid response from police officers and sheriff's deputies from across to the county. One of the very first people on the scene was a Dane County deputy, the medical examiner's office and crime scene investigators, the impacts on the family court system because of the history with this family, human services and behavioral health needs, our emergency management system, who does that rapid response, bringing all the communities together, our highways departments, making sure that the roads were clear for people as they were navigating this. It affected every single person that works for the county, and I think all of us that live here. And while I'm very proud of the response that Dane County and our partners across Dane County had from that terrible, terrible situation, there was an awful lot of grief. And with that grief came the opportunity to heal and to see the good. And whether it was Culver's showing up and people showing up and Culver's running out of food, other small businesses having specials where a portion of the sales went people making food for their friends and family that were very impacted by it. And even the compassion for the shooter's family, the shooter herself, is something that we haven't seen in other communities. And that really is an opportunity for us to reflect on what a special place we are here in Dane County. And I think it's also unprecedented what it is that we've experienced since the November election leading up to January 20th for the inauguration of our new president, and what it is that we have seen since January 20th. I don't know what other word to use other than I feel like I'm living in a blender, and it is not an ice cream sundae that is in that blender with me. It's pretty toxic. We are working really hard at the county level to keep track of the impacts of the decisions that are being made in Washington, D.C., and I think intentional chaos that's being spewed in Washington, D.C. that is affecting us. Oftentimes, what politicians will do is create a big shiny object to get you upset or excited by something, and really the damage that's being done, we are not paying any attention to. And that is, I am fearful of that with what is happening in DC. One of the very first announcements that were made after January 20th was the freezing of money that is going to go to local government. So money that goes to your mayor to make sure that your community is safe. Money that goes to the state of Wisconsin to make sure that Wisconsin has the infrastructure and really our share of our tax dollars coming back into our communities to ensure that we can all thrive. And we in Dane County are not immune to that. We have been navigating what I think is an unconstitutional action by a president who doesn't understand the job that is before him, to assess all of the federal funding that the county receives. And direct funding, our budget, which is in the other presentation, is about $1 billion. The portion of it that comes from the federal government is between $100 and $120 million. So we're talking about more than 10% of our budget. And this is money that goes into our child support system. This is money that goes into our sheriff's departments. This is money that goes into maintaining our roads. This is money that goes into farming, into protecting farmers. This is money that we reinvigorate into our main streets and our small businesses. Losing 10% or more of our budget here in the state of Wisconsin because of political decisions and chaos in Washington, D.C. is pretty scary. But we are seeing the courts react to it, and I am a true believer that we keep pushing, right? We keep pushing. That is really what we do in Dane County. Highlighted by the abundant life situation as well as the Trump situation. It's not easy. People suffer, there's pain, but we keep thinking about what is happening, we prepare for the worst, and we're ready to act with one another. And that's why it is so important to me to have the valuable relationships with people like Mayor Swadley, mayors across Dane County, folks who own businesses here in our community and have grown up here, who believe what it is that we can be providing for our kids and our future. I think we're going to be able to navigate this. Is it going to be uncomfortable? Does it cause me stomach aches and sleepless nights? Of course, and all of us are there. And that's why we need to celebrate Sunshine Days. And I only knew I would have worn yellow to join the mayor. So if I come next year on Sunshine Day, I'll do my best to dress the part. But my administration, I have directed my administration to assess all this federal funding, to keep track of it. We're starting to see some contracts come through from the new administration with new language. We're reassessing what it is that we need to be doing within language, within county statutes and within our county provisions to make sure that we can continue receiving that funding to take care of vulnerable people in our communities, housing, senior services, et cetera. Yes.
What are you seeing, Melissa, as far as you're referring to new language? Could you just expound upon that a little bit as far as what's changed?
Well, this may sound a little bit curt, but one of the contracts that we got said that the county could not start providing abortions. We don't provide abortions.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Okay.
But we need to make sure that we don't have that language anywhere. I don't know we do, but that is an example.
Okay.
DEI language that might be inserted, and that's in many definitions of commissions and committees and groups. We actually have a DEI department within the county, the Tamara and Grigsby Department of Equity and Inclusion. So how is it that we continue doing this work? It is the fabric of who we are in Dane County. I'm never going to apologize for how it is that we see our friends and neighbors and lift each other up. But knowing that this is in our fabric, can we continue leading in innovative ways, making sure that everyone knows that they are valued and that they belong here in Dane County without that actual language there. So working with our county attorneys, with the folks that are specialists in that, ensuring that we are protecting folks. We, out of all 72 counties in Wisconsin, here's something to be proud of, because I feel like I've gone down a path where it's a little dark. We are the only county in Wisconsin that is growing. Out of 72 counties, people want to be here. Why do they want to be here? Because we are inclusive, because we are compassionate, because we are welcoming, because we understand that what makes us different actually makes us stronger. Because we dream about not only today and how it is that we live our lives better today, but we're paving a path for our kids and future generations. That's why people want to come to Dane County, not only as individuals, but also businesses. Starting in Dane County, as well as wanting to expand their businesses in Dane County. So we really need to protect that, because we are the economic engine right now for the state of Wisconsin. Our partners over in Milwaukee are doing a great job, but they're seeing a decrease in population at this point. I hope they're able to right that. I hope they're able to continue growing. But that's where we're at right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So that leads me into something that I talked about during the campaign, that I heard from folks like you all, and that's really is, what does it mean to be in Dane County? What is the Dane County way? What is it that we value? And really, I believe that is that we believe in what is possible. That we believe that we're going to be okay if we're gritty, if we learn how to trust one another, and that we ask questions as opposed to simply judging. There is a real narrative right now. I've got 4 kids, and my youngest is 15. He uses words that I don't understand. Can you slow down? I don't understand the syllables you're putting together. And then when we do that, I have to ask him what he's actually trying to get at. And our kiddos through social media are really not being encouraged to be question askers. They're being encouraged to just swallow what is being fed to them. And I think it is our job to wake up in the morning and be curious. And I want my kids to be curious, right? And that really is part of who we are in Dane County. And I think that we have that opportunity to continue leading as friends and neighbors. We may not agree with someone based on who they voted for president, or what color shirt they're wearing today, or what choice they ordered at the Friday fish fry, right? But if we see the good in one another, we're gonna be able to navigate through this. And our kids need to see us leading in that way. So through compassion and hard work, I very much believe that we're gonna be okay. But we need to realize that there are certain people who we need to be protecting. And it's not the county's job to be the enforcers of immigration status. That's not our job. That is not a mandate. It's not something that we have ever attached ourselves to. And when we have the federal government, and frankly some people in our communities that are saying that it's okay to ask people for their birth certificates, or question where it is they came from, or why it is that they're here, that does not make us be a stronger community, in my opinion. And I'm not going to apologize for that. And that's why early in November, one of the very first things that I did is I created a group of folks from across the county, key workers from across the county, to assess our strategies to ensure that our immigrant communities have what it is that they need. Coming together with plans for separation. And I think every family should do this. You all should do this if you haven't. You know, there may be a day you're in a car accident and you're not there for the people who you love. And they should know how it is that you want your things to be taken care of and how it is that you want the people who you love to be taken care of. So we have all those resources available on Dane County websites. It's not just there for people who are here as immigrants, but certainly it has caused us to think about how it is that we provide resources to them when they're feeling really vulnerable, giving folks the opportunity to have some sort of autonomy and self-direction, to take care of themselves in case of an emergency. In addition, being really clear from the very beginning that I'm not gonna withstand attacks in my community to the LGBTQA folks that are our friends, family, and neighbors. This isn't just a Washington, D.C. thing. This is happening in the state capitol building here in Wisconsin. Even though those Republican legislators who are introducing these harmful bills know that Governor Agard is going to veto it. It's a parlor trick. We already had these debates and conversations in previous sessions. It's time to get to work at the state level, and I know I dipped out of the state legislature, but we have over $4 billion of surplus. Think about what Mayor Swadley could do for Stoughton if you had a little bit more shared revenue. I think about what it is that I could do for vulnerable kids and seniors in Dane County if I had a little bit more of that in our shared revenue formula here in Dane County. So at the end of the day, no matter who you are, what your background is, where you were born, who you love, the color skin you have, how old you are, I don't believe that Dane County is a place that values discrimination. I do not believe that Dane County is a place that values disrespect and harm for our neighbors. Stop. Period. Blank. That is not my values. And I have not met one person in the over 15 years as an elected official who has said that they value that. So I'm going to continue leading in a way to make sure that we are protecting and delivering that message of what really Dane County values and why it is we are this robust community of growth and understanding, and encourage people to be curious and to be compassionate and maybe a little bit less judgmental, because everyone is watching. And we have the ability, and I've had counties, surprisingly, from across Wisconsin that have reached out for some of the work we have done about supporting our immigrant community and making sure we're being thoughtful about our federal funding. And these are communities and counties that you wouldn't expect reaching out to us. So I do think that other people are starting to value and be concerned about what is happening in Washington, D.C. Value one another and be concerned. So all of that is to say it's been pretty unprecedented. But in spite of all of that, we've been really hard at work moving forward on what it is that I heard from all of you and that I talked about when I was inaugurated and that I had a recent op-ed in the paper about. And that really is what number one, continuing outreach, continuing to listen to people across Dane County. Just because my election was over in November, and yes, I'm on the ballot, you have an opportunity to vote for me in April, and I hope that I can continue to earn your trust and your votes there. But that we continue touching in with one another. And I'm here because Mayor Swadley heard me say earnestly, invite me to things that are in your community. I want to hear from folks. And I've had the opportunity to be invited to different town hall meetings and village board meetings and book clubs since my time being elected in November. And it is clear that people really do value having their voices heard. It makes a big difference. In addition, I've met with all the department heads within Dane County, and believe it or not, we have well over 24 different departments. I think we need to streamline there a little bit. I don't know what the supervisor thinks there, but that's a lot of time to meet with all of those people and to hear from them. What are their North Stars? What are their successes? What are some of their challenges? We have 3,000 people that work for the county, and I want every single one of those people to know that they have the best job in the world. I want them to feel proud of where it is that they work and heard by their boss. So how do we ensure that we have efficient and effective government and we're moving forward with a frame of operational excellence? Being able to connect those dots is really important to me, and I can't just come in and change culture. I need to hear from people about what's working and not working. I don't know how many of you are puzzlers, but you get a new puzzle. I'm the type of person who has to take all the pieces of the puzzle out and organize them on the table, put the colors side up, straight lines together. That's what I'm doing right now for Dane County, is I'm getting all my puzzle pieces on the table. And I believe that that will allow us to have stronger, more authentic relationships with one another. In addition, we have 37 county board supervisors. There's more county board supervisors than state senators. That's a lot. They're all lovely, and I appreciate being able to work with them, but it's been a top priority of mine to restore the relationship between the county executive's office and the county board, so that there is meaningful collaboration happening and I understand what's happening directly in people's districts. So I have been meeting with every single one of those county board supervisors as well. So that external outreach to community events and being invited into boards and commissions, led listening sessions in a city, a town, and a village early on, and that was our reach out to them. Look forward to doing more of those, the outreach to the department heads as well as the county board. We know that every single time in my office, my staff knows that every single time I have the opportunity to get out and hear from people, I come back more excited about what it is that we're doing together and with amazing ideas on where it is that we're going to go and how we're going to innovate here in Dane County. So a couple of the things that I have been beating the drum about here since the election, one is protecting our environment. And getting outside. I think all of us, it's beautiful outside today. Not every day is like this, but it's almost spring. I have launched the 25 for 25 challenge. You're going to hear more about that in April. But there are 25 county parks with recreational designations here in Dane County. And I am going to be going out to every single one of those public recreational parks in 2025. We're just going to issue a challenge to folks across Dane County to join us. And different departments in Dane County are going to help. So, for example, partnering with the Bookmobile to create walking books in a county park. There is a sheriff's deputy that is a horseback rider, and she has invited me to ride horses with her at one of our county parks where we have horse trails. I have a dog. Her name is Liberty. She's a yellow lab, and she's a little bonkers. I think she's part kangaroo. But being able to highlight our amazing dog parks. Parks where you can take your kids fishing. We're going to be telling that story, and I look forward to being able to tell that story with all of you. I know we define ourselves in Dane County by our amazing outdoor spaces. Secondly, justice reform is something that I heard from folks across the county. Our justice system needs to be just. It isn't just right now. People are working awful hard, and this one is a challenging one because we have 17 judges, we have court commissioners, we have an elected DA. So those 17 judges are elected in their own right. And then the elected DA and the elected sheriff, the court commissioners that feed in. It means we all need to trust each other enough to be able to sit down and talk about what's not working. And a lot in our justice system isn't working due to generational challenges and people getting afraid to ask hard questions. So we have reconvened something called the Community Justice Council. It hadn't been meeting for quite some time, and it brings together the DA, the sheriff, the judges, myself, members of the county board, to think about how it is that we can implement policies that will create a safer and more just and more equitable system here in Dane County. So it doesn't matter what color your skin is, what your gender is, where in Dane County you live, that you will be treated fairly. And that is important to me. I'm confident that the work that this group has already done since we've reconvened and the recommendations that are being provided are going to continue to find ways to make sure that Dane County is safer and more fair for everyone. Third, the opioid crisis and behavioral health concerns across Dane County. I think all of us need to do more to take care of ourselves. One of the reasons why I've stopped asking, how you doing today? Very Midwestern thing you say when you meet someone on the street. I've started saying, what did you do for yourself today? We all need to think about that, especially right now. So we are in the process of hiring a new director for the Human Services Department. That's taken a couple of stops and starts. I'm hopeful that that is taken care of in early April. But even without that permanent director there, I've been working with our amazing staff to come up with a comprehensive plan to reduce opioid deaths and increase our crisis intervention. When people are ready for treatment and sobriety, they shouldn't go on a waiting list. They shouldn't be looking at having to go to Indiana or to California. We should have a place for them right here because we know people heal better when they are around the people who they love. And how is it that we create a compassionate and well-balanced society here in Dane County? Ensuring that we're addressing the behavioral health needs of not only our kids, but loneliness that seniors experience, and the knowledge of the chaotic world that we are living in. I want to make sure that we are not continuing forward with a system that allows people to fall through the cracks. Sometimes we have more blankets in one spot than we need, and that causes an areas that we're not paying enough attention to. So how is it that we move those security blankets the county provides around so that we're making sure that people are not falling through that safety net that we provide? Economic development is the next thing I would like to talk about. When I was campaigning, people said, what are you going to do for small businesses in Main Streets? That is something that was really important to me as a member of the legislature, and I grew up in a family with small business background. My dad was a small business owner, and I became a small business owner. We know that those small businesses turn into the opportunity to provide dreams for our kids and our future. And we've got a great track record in Dane County. So people were saying, Melissa, County Executive, doesn't have anything to do with economic development, and I said, I think we do. So I'm going to figure out a way to do that. And some of the very first steps that I've taken to lean into the economic development of Dane County was to enhance the Dane County Regional Airport by turning it into a Dane County International Airport. We have international designations in communities like Sheboygan and Green Bay and Appleton. Why don't we have international designation here? We're the capital city. We have amazing business partners. We have a growing population. Some say up to 1 million people in the next 25 years as opposed to the 600,000 folks that we have now. That means people are going to want to come and go. So we are working on that along with the hiring of a new airport director. That is an exciting project for a new airport director to be able to usher through. And I think bigger and more exciting is the redevelopment of the Alliant Energy Center campus. We've had the Alliant Energy Center work group for almost a decade. Envisioning what it is that we can do on that campus. And some of the things that have come to the top of the list are adding a ballroom and more meeting rooms on the exhibition hall on the Alliant Energy Center campus. Making sure that we are creating a campus that the World Dairy Expo wants to continue coming to. And we have a hotel on that campus that has been pretty deteriorated, as well as the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. We have a new partner at the hotel. They are gutting it and starting all over on the inside. So there's excitement about the type of hotel and the partners that we're going to have there. And I have announced that I'm going to go forward with issuing an RFP for the redesign of the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, which will create a spark and movement for the rest of the campus to be able to be reinvigorated. That campus is intended to be an innovation fund. It's intended to not have tax dollars invested in it. But unfortunately, since COVID, we've had to put tax dollars in it. So with the loss of our fair share revenue at the state level, the chaos at the federal level, we need to make sure that that campus can stand on its own 2 feet. And people love an opportunity to go out, listen to concerts, be entertained by people. And with the redevelopment of the Veterans Memorial Coliseum, we're going to see that excitement, which will spur continued growth, give us the resources we need to expand those ballrooms and meeting rooms, as well as envision what the rest of that campus looks like that this committee on the Alliant Energy Center has been rolling up their sleeves and doing for so long. Can you imagine that actually being a hub that people want to go to? Restaurants and outdoor venues for our kids to run around and have fun with their friends, as well as places for concerts and the World Dairy Expo. So I really see that as an opportunity over the next handful of years to create a real sense of place, revenue and excitement, add value to our community. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the redevelopment committee as well as the county board and our partners. I signaled that my RFP will have a public-private partnership component, which is something the county has never done before. We can continue doing things the way we've been doing them, or we can innovate and get a little uncomfortable. And I think that this is a safe place to innovate, and we're actually going to create momentum and excitement for our residents and a reason for people to come into Dane County, have more tourism, which is good for our businesses. It's good for our tax base. I believe that this is vital in keeping our county moving forward and being the excitement of our community. So with the immense growth that I have mentioned, as well as thinking about our future, we need to make sure, lastly, that we're protecting the way of life that is diverse in Dane County. We have century farms, we have towns, we have villages. We're not cities every single place we go. But if we have all these people, potentially 400,000 more people coming into Dane County over the next couple of decades, where are those folks gonna live? What roads are they gonna drive on? What schools are their kids gonna go to? What businesses are they gonna work at? How do we welcome them in? Who's gonna recreate where? So a big part of my administration is thinking about and envisioning how it is that Dane County grows in a thoughtful way to protect these diverse ways of life. I don't think any of us want Dane County to look like Milwaukee County. Again, I love going to Milwaukee, but Milwaukee is one city after another, and there is not a farm. We don't have bars. We don't have sweet little main streets, right? We want that here in Dane County. That's why people are coming here. And I believe we can do this. But it really is going to be based on tough conversations, true trusted relationships, being gritty, shooting for the stars, not being afraid to ask questions, and not being afraid of being wrong, right? If I have a terrible idea and people can come to me and say it's terrible, I can be humble and say, yeah, you made some great points there. Let's redirect. But it really is about expanding my network of stakeholders and trusted advisors, and that means all of you. I very much believe that public service is about being responsive and responsible to your bosses. And the people who are in Dane County, the 600,000 people that live, work, and play in Dane County, no matter how old you are, what your background is, I believe you are my boss. I am earnest about that. And I hope that you have seen that in my time, the short time I was able to represent you all in the Senate, and as you've watched my career in the legislature and now moving into the executive branch. I really do believe that this is the most amazing place to live. I am so proud to be able to raise my kids here. I'm a single mom. I grew up on food stamps, and I'm the county executive. It's because Dane County believed in me as a kiddo that I was able to grow up and believe I could do this job. And everyone in Dane County deserves to be able to achieve their dreams, whether it's starting a family business or running for office or becoming someone who cures cancer. But that all starts, I believe, really with a quest for kindness and understanding and curiosity. And that's the type of county executive that I plan to be for all of you. It's how I believe that I've navigated the first almost 4 months of this job. And I look forward to continuing to be able to get to know you all better and make sure that Dane County continues to be the place in Wisconsin where people want to move, put their roots down, and believe in a better society for all of us. So that's my first 100 days speech, and I'm going to take a drink of my coffee because this is Coffee with the Mayor, and hopefully there are some people that have more questions because we had a great question. Yes.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for all that. That was a ton of information. But I have a question about private investment in the county. When we get an interested, party that is wants to invest, do you contact them? What's the county's approach to that?
So are you referring to specifically this project or in general?
Well, for example, there's an opportunity in Stoughton, and I don't know much about it, but the Smet Foundation might be wanting to invest in Stoughton in general. Does the county do anything to encourage that or facilitate that?
Yeah, so in some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. So think about over the last over 12 years, I was in the Capitol building where my Republican colleagues wanted to dismantle local control. I don't believe that dismantling local control is how it is that Dane County will move forward. So I want to be a partner. If your mayor calls me and says, there's this amazing potential partnership coming here, would you be willing to join me for a lunch or a conversation with this group to help answer questions about Dane County or show that you care about our community? I will show up. But I don't think it is the job of Dane County to tell Stoughton what type of business should move here or where they should go. So yes, but with caution and with invitation, honoring local governance.
Yeah, and I would just add that the county has always been supportive of initiatives here in Stoughton. We've had great representation, including Michael Engelberger as our current county board supervisor. And when we need support, Mike's just a phone call or an email away, and he can provide that services. Sandy Harder is here as well. We have Joining Forces for Families here, so we have support from the county there as well. When we work with the developers and they apply for tax credits, the county has money available for housing, for workforce housing. So we're in the process right now of going through a negotiation on 120 units, which would be mostly senior living, and the county has participated with grant money to help that developer close the financial gap that's created because the cost of everything continues to skyrocket. County also has supported us in the past on initiatives like the youth center. We were able to secure CBGB grants over the years for that project and other projects here as well. So we know that the support we need is only a phone call away. And the Schmidt project, so far they haven't really asked us for anything, but certainly if they do, or there's things that we need to do with the county, we know they're available. They've helped us with some things on some of our other businesses, help facilitate processes with the governor and the DNR as well. So the county is just one of another tool that we have at the local level to reach other people, because we can't solve all these local problems alone. So we do reach out to the county, the state, and even the federal government. I was in DC a couple weeks ago, to make a case and advocate for our community and Dane County as a whole, because we're all kind of in this together.
And you have a history of great county board supervisors. When I was on the county board, Carl Chenoweth was my partner, and Mike is doing a great job. I don't think I'm overstepping the line. Like, we have each other's personal cell phone numbers. We enjoy talking about what's going well and thinking about what we can do better. So it is lovely when there are people, partners, that can really link arms, as opposed to be like, oh, not in my backyard, right? You're in my silo. We don't need that. We don't need to create those silos as a community.
Did you say you're on the ballot again in April?
Yes.
I don't understand.
So I don't want to get too political because I have staff here from my office. But But my election in November was a special election. So Joe Parisi announced that he was going to retire early from his job, from his term as our county executive. He gave us a little over a year's notice with that announcement. I announced a little more than a year before the election would be that I was gonna not run again for my Senate seat because my Senate seat was up. It wasn't one of these free passes that politicians talk about. I needed to make the hard decision. Do I stay in the Senate and not run for county executive, or do I run for county executive and give up my Senate seat? So that campaign was actually, that over a year-long campaign was for a special election to fill Joe Parisi's term out from November until April 1st. County executive terms are 4-year terms, and they are typically on the ballot in the spring. So it's typically a nonpartisan. So I was running in a special election as a nonpartisan candidate in the most hyper-partisan election of probably my life forever, right? So trying to navigate, moving from that legislative mentality and hyper-partisanship to the quiet nature of what a county executive does, which is more thoughtful, as a special election candidate. And that was tricky. But you know, I came across the finish line, worked hard, which meant that now I'm on the ballot for the full 4-year term. There is a general election. There's another gentleman running in the race. He would like to cut your property taxes by 30%. You can read about him on the League of Women's Voters website. I want to continue doing the work that we are doing. County executive cannot just for you all cut your property taxes by 30%. Your property taxes are made up of 10% of that goes to the county. So there's, even if we cut all county services out, we would not reach his benchmark. So yes, April 1st, you have the opportunity to vote for me, superintendent of schools, Supreme Court. There's a constitutional amendment question about voter ID, and you probably have some local elections on the ballot.
We do. We have school board elections and city council elections as well.
So, I'm a big Amtrak and train user, and of course, the city is working on the potential relocation of a line from the main Minneapolis to Chicago run, the Empire Builder. Is the county at all involved in discussions and negotiations or issues related to the siting of where that station and that track can or should be?
They haven't been, but they should be.
I agree. That was my point.
So I live on the north side of Madison, and I'll play my cards here. I really think that an Amtrak station where Oscar Mayer used to be,
Yep.
close to the airport and out of the way of the downtown congestion.
Yes.
I mean, if you get
That's
off
what I
of,
voted for.
if you get off the train and it's by the downtown old DOA building, for example, where is your family going to pick you up? How are you going to get in a cab or onto an Uber? It's going to be worse than a football game in the summer, you know, or in the fall, or one of those amazing concerts that's going to be coming to Camp Randall, right? So I think that actually we would have more utilization from people across the county. And last I checked, Dane County was much bigger than the urban center. We go out to the edges, and it is my job to advocate for all of Dane County, not just the urban center of Dane County. So that's my bias.
So will there be a committee that you assign that responsibility to, or how will that work?
So this is, at this point, it's really been led by the mayor of Madison. I'm not sure how that decision was made, but we do have a committee called MPO, which is a larger transportation committee, and I think that's where I have a new appointment to make to that committee. We have one person who is not continuing on, so it's important that I am thoughtful about who gets put on that MPO committee. And I meet with the mayor every 2 weeks, I think, the mayor of Madison.
Sure.
You know, I'm not sure if I'm going to continue. I need to meet with her, right? But I don't meet with all of the other mayors across Dane County, even on a monthly basis. And I would like to be able to get that into my repertoire. So I think it's important that our staff continue meeting, but I'm hopeful that I can extend those meetings to other mayors as well.
That would be great. And the mayors, we do meet periodically as well. It's been quarterly, if not every other month here lately. So we do talk about county issues as well. And then, you know, we can certainly invite you to one of
Maybe
those
Tim will
meetings.
invite me to one of his secret mayor meetings.
Yeah. Not so secret, but we've had like 3 of them here in the last 6 months, and it's been very productive, especially on some of the, the issues that spill over from the federal government. How should we handle the immigrant issue here in Stoughton, for example, and how can we assure our constituents that they're going to be safe, and what should you do if somebody, approaches the city? And I know the county and the sheriff in particular has shown leadership on that issue.
Yeah, Sheriff Barrett removed Dane County from something called SCAP funding, which was a program where we wouldn't report undocumented folks in our jail when they were there, but on an annual basis, we would aggregate that information and provide it back to the federal government. We started getting worried about what the Trump administration would do with that data, because clearly Elon Musk and his folks they have my kids' social security numbers and bank account numbers and birthdays, and they're not even part of government. It's terrifying what this gathering of information is going to do. So Sheriff Barrett thoughtfully removed us from the SCAT program. I know that there are some people in the community that are frustrated with the fact that he did that, including my opponent. It did, however, create triggers. So now our state legislature has us under a microscope with this new group called GOAT, which is kind of like the Doge group at the federal level. And they have open records requested us for all that we are doing when it comes to issues that they find deplorable that really match our moral things that are really matter to us. They've introduced bills that would mandate that county sheriffs do become immigration enforcers, even though it's not in our statutes. And that was triggered because Kelvin Barrett was brave enough to remove Dane County from that program, but it caused a spark and a light, and now our state legislature and the federal government has us under more of a microscope. Unfortunately, it is sounding like frankly, they want to come in and do more harm to us, even though we were answering the needs of our community, because they feel like we're bad actors and we're not giving them what they want.
And we're seeing that spill over to some of the neighboring municipalities. So at our mayor's meeting, that was a topic of the conversation, where there's been, records requests that, it's just really a witch hunt, a fishing expedition, but it causes an enormous amount of work for our clerks who have already been overburdened because of all the election laws and alcohol bills and all these other things they've been doing at the state level. And it's really caused, a lot of clerks and public officials in general to think twice, is this really worth it? Because quite frankly, they're being harassed. And that's part of the strategy that's going on. And these are legislators that don't even represent our district. They have committees that are bipartisan, they go rogue. I mean, there's just some terrible things that are happening.
They've announced they don't even plan on meeting. They had one meeting to just kind of make their political points, and have said the GOAT committee doesn't really plan on meeting or introducing any legislation. They're just using it as a way to get into the back business of our local governments, to remove that local control.
So these are things we advocate for with our 2 lobby groups. We have one with cities and villages, and then we have one with the Wisconsin League of Municipalities. The difficult thing is those are nonpartisan groups, but we still carry that message because, my feeling, quite frankly, is if the state wants to go on a witch hunt, they should take a look in the mirror, because we've seen, with Gableman in particular, the taxpayers' money that was wasted basically trying to overturn the election in 2020. And I mean, it was just wrong to do, and then for us to pay for somebody to do that was just ridiculous. So my message to them is, if that's how you want to play, we're going to lobby the federal government and just send the money right to us directly, because we know what we need to do with that money here on a local basis. The state of Wisconsin, especially elected officials outside of our district, they're out of touch with reality. That's why Dane County is growing and thriving, because these other communities in Dane County, outside of Dane County, really aren't paying attention. They don't understand Wisconsin values. They're worried about money. They're worried about political issues that have nothing to do with what they should be working on and trying to change the Constitution. There's another referendum on a ballot again to try to make it even more difficult for people to vote. And that's really not how Wisconsin was founded, and that's really not what's important to us here in the state.
Start here. Good job, Mayor.
I just wanted to express my gratitude and appreciation for the emergency response that all the county resources displayed in December at the shooting at ALCS. My son's family had a couple of my grandchildren went there. One just graduated last year. They know a lot of people there, knew the people that were injured and or killed. And the response was amazing, and I really think a shining example for the country of how to do things right. And my son would say the same thing. We weren't Uvalde, we were Dane County, and it was really a blessing.
I'm very sorry that your son, your grandchildren, and the community at large has had to navigate this, and it was clear there was a lot of trauma left over from the Mount Horeb shooting, as well as bringing back fear from domestic violence incidents and suicides that people have experienced within their families. But again, I think it showed how it is that we really have a tendency to want to take care of one another here in Dane County as opposed to create these divisions. And I am very proud I had the opportunity to tour Abundant Life and meet with the principal and some of the staff there recently. I knew that there were a lot of people in their business right away, and as you know, when there's a death in your family or some sort of tragedy, if you wait a little bit of time, things quiet down. And I wanted to wait until things were quieter to be able to go out and have thoughtful conversations. And it is clear there is healing that needs to continue to happen, but there is a lot of amazing positivity that is happening there. And I would just ask that you all keep that community, whether they have touched your life or not, in your heart, because it has created ripples through our whole entire county. Is there a question?
Well, you mentioned obviously taking care of one another in our communities, and we have a large number of Ukrainian families here in Stoughton, and I've worked with a couple of them, and I'm wondering what their status is now with the new administration. Do they have fears that they're going to be not only removed from our county, but from our country? Is ICE in our community, and do they have any fears for that?
So we have, I believe that some law enforcement agencies in Dane County have started to receive notifications about if this person comes across your radar, let us know from the federal government. I'm not sure that they have actually come in and done direct roundups. We are trying, again, I created a coalition of county folks to make sure we're keeping our pulse on that, and we touch base on a weekly basis to see if there are changes. I would say that the immigrant community in Dane County is not a monolith. The diversity of Hispanic people from different countries and the reasons why they are here is not just Hispanic. We have people from Africa that are here, Ukrainians, Afghanistan, Hmong, students from China. The list goes on and on. I am missing, it is so diverse that I am missing many of them as I talk about this. And they are all scared. They're all scared. Especially after what it is that we saw happen earlier this week with a student activist who has a legal green card in our country. People need to make sure they have their emergency plans. And we as a community need to make sure that we're checking in with folks. So if you do work directly with Ukrainian families, I would say, I know it is a hard time. Is there something that I can do for you or our community can do for you? At this point, it's more about those one-on-one touches on how it is that we can make sure that we're assuaging as much of the anxiety as we can, because we're not going to erase it.
And I've been getting numerous, emails and communications from people that are concerned for those families. And it's really kind of a federal issue. So what we do is we work with our, federal representatives, Spokane, Johnson, and Baldwin, and forward those messages to them. Because, it's the federal agencies that are really doing the enforcement. And we have an open, dialogue. I met all three of them a couple of weeks ago when I was in DC. We weren't there specifically on that issue, but they really understand, especially in Dane County, our concerns and what our values are, because, they're here often. I think Mark lives here yet, and Tammy's here all the time, and and usually Ron Johnson has one of his aides show up to different events. So, we have good representation in DC on some of these issues, but really when push comes to shove, we need them to be more aggressive and have their voices heard instead of having everything done through executive order. I mean, that's why we elect our officials, is to represent us. And we're hoping that when push comes to shove and votes are made, that they'll stand up and they'll be the voice of Wisconsin. And that's what we're pushing for.
So one of the things that I have heard from folks in the immigrant community and those that are more directly supporting them is that they're very unlikely to raise their hands and ask for help right now. Because they're afraid if they ask for help, it is going to increase their vulnerability and they're going to be put on some sort of list. So that's why it's even more important for neighbors to reach out to neighbors. That's directly from folks that I know that are terrified about what might be coming their way. They don't want to log on to a website and put their email there and get a phone call, or show up at a community event and learn about their rights in a space where ICE could be on the outside and pop in. So if we do end up what happened in 2017 with the roundups, people were free to go to the grocery store and pick their medication up. So if that does start happening in the community, what are some of the ways that you can support your neighbors? I, as county executive, I don't have that list for you, but you know where people are. Is there the ability for you to offer to pick up groceries, or to run errands, or to make sure kids are still feeling like they can be kids, dropping coloring books off, or making sure their bike has air in the tires?
You mentioned the group with the county that is monitoring the ICE or whatever the activities. Is there a public proof? Is there a way to? Okay.
So the county isn't really monitoring it. We are watching. We're asking people to keep us updated. ICE typically, when a law enforcement jurisdiction comes into another law enforcement jurisdiction, they would reach out. So typically you would expect them to reach out to the sheriff or the police chief in Stoughton if they were going to be here. In 2017, they did not do that. So we don't anticipate that they're going to give us any sort of heads up. But we are hearing, when we're getting flags from people, we are communicating to make sure that we're all on that same page. But it's not, I would say, it actually gets a little dicey when people in the community will say, oh, I saw a big black van with federal plates driving through. That creates more chaos. It's very unlikely that's actually anything to do with ICE. And early on in January, there was a lot of that going on in Dane County. People were saying, oh, they're here, and they were not here. And then people were getting scared unnecessarily. So I would actually encourage you not to create some sort of call tree when it comes to whether or not you're seeing the federal government. I would go to social media and websites that represent communities like Centro Hispano and Voces de la Frontera. They have created their own communication system, and they have assured us that they will provide that information so that we can watch it.
Yeah, okay. I just want to let people know in this room that I am trying to set up a network of concerned people who was go to the grocery store or pick up a kid or share information about power of attorney and things like that, emergency preparedness for separation. So that's just want to let people know that's happening in this town, and I'm gathering with people.
Thank you. Blue shirt, and then we'll come to you.
Yeah, I feel like our population here, I have to talk about the seniors. And so I did a little write-up for both you and Tim, but I have family that's concerned with this, but we are losing some senior housing now, and with the statistics I pulled in, there's going to be a huge upload of seniors continuing through 2050. And a lot of us want to stay independent. We want to be out on our own as much as we can. And I would like to know if there's any alertness to this and what can be done from your perspective.
So I appreciate you bringing it up, and you're right. You should have the dignity of being able to live where you want to live at this point in your life, right? And Stoughton wants you to stay here. And that's one of the reasons why your mayor has talked about creating another affordable housing project out here that's primarily focused on providing housing for seniors. And I don't know if you want to talk about the timeline or what that might look like.
Yeah, we're still in the process of, negotiating with the developer. They need tax incremental financing support to close the financial gap, as well as the money that they would receive from the county and the state of Wisconsin through tax credits. But we're, at least a year away from start to finish when they build it. And at this point, more than likely, if it goes through, it won't start until summer anyway. And what's happened is we had, Rosewood is senior living, and the previous owner passed away, family sold it, the tax credits after 30 years were due to be renewed. New ownership decided not to renew them. So what I did is I talked to Jamie, who was the interim county executive, and what we're trying to do is put together a list so we understand when these tax credits are ready to expire, so we can encourage the owners and get involved in trying to get those renewed so we don't lose future tax credit projects like we did this particular one, because we didn't even know. I was actually contacted by a former county employee that worked for the County Housing Authority, and we tried to quickly put together a plan to see if we had any funds in order to purchase the building. And basically, we were a day late, $1 short. By the time we were notified, there was already an offer on the property. We didn't even know it was for sale. So we're working with the county and with the state, with WIDA, in order to try to, not only for Stoughton, but Dane County and statewide, the elected officials and whether it's the municipality or the county should really know when these things are due, so there can be an effort to try to get them renewed, because we can't build them as fast as we need them. We certainly don't want to lose them. So we were able to do the remodel project with the WIDA tax credit for Greenspire, so we're pleased about that. Those are all being remodeled, as well as there's going to be some amenities installed for solar and heat pumps, although we're a little bit nervous about the federal money for the Inflation Reduction Act that is providing tax credits for those projects, as well as our own. So there's still a lot of uncertainty at the federal level, and even amongst our representatives, when I went out there just a few weeks ago, they were just throwing up their hands. They don't know either. So I think that, things should get a little bit more clear here in the next few months on how those monies are going to be available or not. And in the meantime, we're still working at the local level to try to move forward on these projects regardless. So definitely a concern that we have. I've had a lot of communication with residents at Greenspire. I know they're communicating with the landlords, but they basically want to go market rate because it's easier for them. And what it does is it displaces people that have been there for 20, 30 years. It's like their own family that are in those units. So we're concerned about that. We have our own housing authority for Greenspire. The county has a housing authority. Money is tight. I don't know if you're going to be able to expand that, but that's something that maybe we can collaborate on going forward.
I was wondering if the Wisconsin Counties Association was talking about the immigration issue, since so many of the rural counties rely on immigrants to operate dairy farms and the like. And I was just wondering if there's any communication in that regard.
Yeah, so I wish I could say that Dane County had a healthy relationship with the Wisconsin Counties Association. We actually withdrew during COVID because they were lobbying the opposite of what our public health department and what our community was asking for within the state legislature. I am still part of a group within the Counties Association that supports county executives and county administrators. Most counties in Wisconsin don't have elected county executives. Most counties have a county administrator that's appointed by their county board. I don't know if our county board would prefer that or not, but I'm glad we have a county executive here, so I'm able to do this work. We continue to work with the Counties Association when it comes to, what are they saying about immigration? I would hope that they would be getting their ducks in the row to talk about how this is affecting our farmers. I know farmers in Dane County are scared about losing their workforce. It used to be back in the day, if you were a family farmer, you had 12 kids. And you had your workforce right there. Families aren't having 12 kids anymore, and in fact, farmers are getting to the point where they're aging and they don't have kids that want to even take over the family farm and run it. So that's creating some of the conflict in one of your neighbors down by the solar panels with the Kashkanan solar project, right? Some of those farmers have decided that they want to lease their land out for solar instead of doing farming. So it is a very complicated farming in Wisconsin and in Dane County. It creates complications, and especially not having that partnership at the counties association that we would desire. But I have been meeting with farmers across Dane County, as well as with some of their representatives, their lobby groups, as well as the Towns Association, to think about how it is that we support that workforce and ensure that this is something that a lot of people don't realize. Dane County is actually the most food producing county in Wisconsin. I like to eat. I really do. I've got 4 kids that really like to eat as well. So let's figure out how we can continue producing that food and being agricultural leaders. And that means, there is that tension between urban and rural in Dane County. There's no secret about that. But I have been welcomed into those conversations in a way that feels like we're moving forward in a healthy way. I wish we did have better partners, but I think as a lot of the federal funds to farmers are starting to be cut off by the Trump administration, those conversations are going to be changing a little bit more as well. I don't like to see people hurt anywhere.
Speaking of food, that was exactly what my question is. Obviously, the Trump administration, vis-a-vis Elon Musk and others, are cutting back on our assistance programs to the poor and SNAP and other related programs and projects that help get food and money to low-income people in particular. Does the county, or will the county play any extra role in any offsetting help as food funds diminish and SNAP has more difficulty getting money and food, I should say, to local citizens? Does the county have a role here, or can you perceive a one in the future?
So super tricky question, right? I said, depending on what the federal government decides, we could lose up to 10% of our budget. And we have mandated services that we need to provide. Those mandates are oftentimes unfunded, and more often than not, underfunded. There's actually a provision in state law that creates some debate for people on whether or not the county can play a role in funding food access. The county did put money into food access when we had federal money through the COVID relief dollars. There was a lot more leniency in how it is that we could spend that money. But it is pretty clear to me that the county would be breaking state law if we provided money to food banks and into SNAP directly. And even if we could do that, how do we, what of our mandated services don't we do if we're losing 10%? I know people are scared and we're gonna need to figure out how to be creative and gritty, but really since January 20th, when the local funding and funding for nonprofits announcement was made by Trump, every meeting that I have had with outside agencies, and there's a lot of purchase of service outside agencies that partner with the county, they start with, are you gonna fund my unit backfill what the federal government takes away? How do I do that if I'm losing potentially 10% of my budget? It's not that I'm callous and I'm cold-hearted. I don't know how we do that. And I feel like I need to protect my county workers. I have 3,000 people that work for the county. And it is my job to protect them so they can keep doing their jobs, so that even if we're losing the funding, we have the people power to be there, to be able to take care of our friends and neighbors. So I'm navigating that. It is scary as hell. It's complicated. But I have been bumping around in the city-county building looking for the secret box of $100 bills so that I can do some of these pet projects and help people out. I have not found it. I don't think it exists.
This area is pretty good in CSAs. Would the county be able to work in some collaborative way with local connection organizations for helping local farmers do more with their CSA properties to produce more?
So we do have the Dane County Food Council, and they are pretty innovative when it comes to supporting small farms and food access in that way. And I'm sure they are thinking about this. I can reach out. I'm not sure if you're on the Food
No,
Council.
I'm not.
Are you on the Food
Carl
Council?
Sennett.
Carl is. So you have a direct line with Carl being on that Food Council. But yes, if we can keep the food that is being grown in Dane County here in Dane County for healthy meals for our kids, our seniors, and us every single day, I think that is a good thing. And if there is a role the county can play in helping to coordinate that, I think that is helpful. That is thought process, and that is a good one of the things that the Dane County UW Extension Department is really good at. When I was on the county board, I was on the Food Council, and we had talked about creating a food hub, a place where farmers, small farms could bring their things, and we could aggregate them so we could sell them in larger numbers. And it didn't come to fruition with so many roadblocks and barriers, but there are other people that are talking about creating aggregate facilities across the county. I recently had a meeting with one of them, and it would be great if that sparked up.
Yeah, we're certainly, support of those initiatives. We saw where the county took a leadership role during the pandemic with the farm programs and Second Harvest. They actually had set up here in Stoughton to do some of their packaging so they could send out food to food pantries, not only in Stoughton, but really throughout the county. So that was a great program, until the money ran out. But, that time of need, that was really important that the county stepped in and did that. It was great for the farmers too. And then, we're concerned about programs like Head Start, Meals on Wheels, those types of things. Lunches, in our schools as well. So those are all programs that, we're concerned about, and we're gonna continue to fight to keep them because we all know that, that's basic essential is to eat. We know that children in school, they learn better when their bellies are full, and things like that. I mean, the data's out there, so there's really no reason to cut essential programming like that. And, we can do what we can to try to support that at the local level, but we don't have a lot of resources as well. The state of Wisconsin, as Melissa mentioned, is sitting on a pile of money that's been created by us through the economic development here in Dane County. It's in the state, coffer basically, and we provide services to generate those funds to our businesses with the sales and income tax. So we believe that, the municipalities and the school districts have a right to that money, and they're trying to play the political game to give that money back through some sort of a tax reduction, which sounds good, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't amount to that much when you can do so much more collectively to preserve our services and our way of life here in Wisconsin. Do you have a question in the back?
Yeah, I was just wondering, you have instances where states are setting up their own universal, school lunch programs. Is that something we see, cities or counties doing internally, locally, setting up a program like that? And is that something we could explore, whether we get access to those state funds or not?
Well, as far as here locally, we just don't have the funding to do that. The majority of our funding comes from the property tax, and I think most people, even on both sides of the aisle, would agree that we rely too heavily on property tax. So you saw in the governor's budget that he put something in there to start a conversation about having local city sales tax. Is another way to, everything takes resources, and the money is the big one. And for us, and like I said, we're providing services for businesses, whether it's Walmart or Main Street businesses, and the money that they create through their sales tax collections and income tax goes to the state. If that money was reallocated to us, or even some of the federal money came directly to us, nothing against the state officials that we have. Our elected officials have always been great here in Dane County. But quite honestly, we've seen even on road grants and things like that, if we get the money directly from the federal government, they'll cover 80% of the road cost. But if it goes through the MPO, for example, the MPO only covers 60%. So we lose 20% just by having, the state or local organizations administer the programs when we're capable of doing that ourselves. So the money would go further if they gave us more local control, as Melissa had mentioned earlier. So that's a big thing for us. And as far as the county, the county does amazing things in the area of human services. We have people here from human services and they can tell the story better than I can. And we have limited resources. So they're trying to gut our budgets when we don't really have enough people to begin with. And that's the thing, and what you see dedicated employees, whether it's with the city, the school, the county, that are working extra time and effort to try to make up for that shortage of staff. And for, the suggestion that we're not running efficiently, like I said earlier, those at the federal level, they should look in the mirror. Those at the state level should look in the mirror as well.
I have one more question.
Sure.
And just so everybody knows, I'm a new city council representative, so I'm asking this partially because I'm curious about solution building there. But speaking of local control and local solutions and kind of back to the transportation conversation, I would be interested in getting involved in the MPO. And what can we do as a county for inter-community transportation, public transportation options? Where is that headed? Is Madison leading that?
So in Wisconsin, we had a very robust plan to create RTAs, allowing local governments to be able to partner with one another for transportation, expanding transportation options. It was something that Governor Walker killed before he was even inaugurated. We continue talking about RTAs and the importance of it. We had actually a plan here in Dade County. It was the 2020 plan, which if the RTA hadn't been killed by Governor Walker, we would have had a robust RTA in the year 2020. It is still there. I think it is the desire of many people, even within the DOT, to talk about multimodal transportation and how we get people from one place to another, whether it's trains or bikes, public transportation, buses. And that is something that I was serious about when I was in the legislature, and even not more serious now as a local elected. There is a preemption in our state law. So we can talk about it, we can think about it, but we can't do a damn thing because of the preemption at state law. So they need to make a change there. And I will also say about food access, as a kid that grew up on free and reduced lunch, as a kid that benefited from WIC benefits and food stamps, right? If that hadn't been there, for me, I wouldn't have been able to grow up and believe that I could ever run for office, be a senator or a county executive. Every kid deserves to know that if they have food in their belly and a safe place to go to sleep at night, that their dreams matter. And we are teetering on that. I love going into schools and talking to kiddos. And a lot of kids will say to me, when I say, what are your dreams? It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. That's heartbreaking, right? But our school boards have gone to referendum time and time again to try to provide more services for kids. Universal meals for all within a school, within a municipality. That would fall on the school board. But we're seeing more and more frequently those school referendums failing, because how many times are we going to go back to the taxpayers? It's like having bake sales to be able to run our schools, as opposed to having that fair funding come from our state and federal partners. So right now, again, I would love to be able to say that we can solve that problem through the counties and municipalities, but without additional resources, there is no way to do that. And that's why you're seeing your schools go to referendum time and time again.
Yeah, and you're also seeing municipalities go to referendum. Oregon will be going to referendum here next month. Middleton, Monona, Fitchburg, Sunbury did a wheel tax. We're here in Verona, might be doing a wheel tax. They're all looking for ways to balance their budgets. On the MPO, you and I should have a conversation offline. Alder Caravello currently serves. I don't think he's going to continue. There might be an opportunity there to submit an application. So we can talk about that. We do have the shared ride service here, and that's really a state-funded program for about half of it, a little bit more than half. The city funds it locally, and then the fares that people pay in order to use the shared ride covers most, if not all, of the city's cost. So that's a program that we hope the state will continue to fund as part of the transportation aid funding. And that fund, has gone down in the last year or two. So we're a little bit concerned about that, because then we either have to raise the rates or the city has to somehow come up with the money to balance that. We've had to go into our reserve fund balance in order to do that, just to maintain the level of programming, and it's getting more challenging to pay those drivers fair market wage as well, a living wage. So those are concerns. We do have a grant that we're applying for planning for mass transit. We applied for the first round with Oregon, and those grant dollars for the planning were really awarded to larger communities. Most of them were outside the state. We think with the second round, we may have a better opportunity. And that's just a planning grant, and if that was to be successful, then there's another grant available for implementation of a plan. And that's where, if that were to come to fruition, I think we could have a conversation with the county or Madison Metro about whether or not we could put together a route down here. I know Sun Prairie has a route, Monona has a route. I'm not sure if Middleton does or not. I think
Verona.
Yeah, Verona, with Epic. So we're kind of in the tweener spot where we're really not big enough, but we're kind of heading in that direction. We have a study that we did several years ago that I had updated during the pandemic with the Department of Transportation for a site. So we have 3 sites that were identified. One of the sites, the city controls the land, so I think there's great opportunity there. But then there's the cost of building it, and with the federal government, the DOT, a lot of their funding comes from the federal government. We don't know what that looks like going forward, and I'm sure the MPO is looking for dollars from the federal government as well. We don't know if there's going to be support for programs like that, even though it makes a lot of sense. It's good for the environment, it saves people money, it reduces traffic. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons to do these things, but philosophy-wise, sometimes we don't get support on both sides of the aisles on this. I'm thankful that we have a governor that is good and strong and certainly has our support on some of these initiatives that really don't meet our values and our visions for not only the county, but for the state of Wisconsin. So we'll continue to push to, preserve and expand those opportunities. Any other questions? All right, I didn't have a whole lot of slides to show, so I think we've taken up plenty of time today, and I'll just carry them over to next month. We really appreciate y'all being here, and certainly